Is the Grand Prismatic Spring one of the top things on your list to see in Yellowstone National Park? We're gonna go through all the information you need to know in order to enjoy it the most. Hey there, I'm Alex from Alex on the Map, and I have been to over 30 national parks at this point. Yellowstone is one I feel very comfortable with because I visited it a lot as a teen, and then now as an adult I've been back a lot. So I've seen the Grand Prismatic Spring once or twice, just a few times. To be honest, I didn't get what all the fuss was about when I was younger, but I totally get it now. And there's definitely a reason why it's one of the top things you want to see while you are in the park. However, there are certain times when it is better to visit than others due to the color, and of course due to the crowds, because it is one of the most popular things to do. This guide is going to cover everything you need to know about visiting, as well as how to make the most of it, which times you should go, maybe which times are not the best, and also a little bit of how to fit it in with your plan of seeing all the other sites in Yellowstone. Quick tip before we get started though, if you want to go, morning is actually my favorite time. We're going to talk a little bit more about times to visit later, but personally the reason I love it is you get to see this really cool mist coming up from the spring because it's so hot and the air is so cold. It's just really kind of spooky and magical. Alright, let's talk a little bit about why the Grand Prismatic Spring is worth visiting on your trip. The Grand Prismatic Spring is the largest hot spring in the United States, and even more impressively, the third largest in the world. So it's a really big hot spring. It's over 121 feet deep and 330 feet in diameter. That is a large natural hot tub. Another fun fact, it is the most photographed geothermal feature in the park. So I think all that gives it reason to at least take a stop by and check it out. The Grand Prismatic Spring is located in the Midway Geyser Basin. It's about 7 miles away from Old Faithful, so super close, which is another reason why it tends to be super crowded. People tend to go from one to the other, so that stretch of road between the two can get really busy. You're going to want to keep in mind that parking for the spot is usually pretty limited, so finding a spot within the parking area can be a bit tough. Thankfully, during the prime summer months, the park usually sets aside some roadside parking, so it's a little bit easier to find a spot if you're willing to walk. Another thing you might want to do is check out the parking situation first, see how it looks, and if it's bad, go do some other stuff in the area before coming back. I'm going to show you a quick map so you can get a sense of where this is located within the park so you can plan accordingly when seeing other things. Alright, I'm going to break down what the experience of visiting the Grand Prismatic Spring is like just so you know what to expect. I would set aside at least an hour and maybe a little bit more to explore this spring and the other springs that are within the area. There are actually quite a few other geysers and hot springs that you might want to check out, so definitely make sure that that's planned for instead of just this one thing. Another thing to keep in mind is that there is an overlook hike that you might want to check out as well, and if you are planning on doing this too, then I would set aside at least 2.5 hours to fully complete the experience. Of course, remembering to set aside a little bit more time if you have kids in tow as well. One of the things I love about visiting this area is that it is really accessible. You're completely on a boardwalk during your time around the area, so whether you're a big hiker or not, it's really just walking on a flat surface for a while in order to see everything. There are some other geothermal features I highly recommend you check out, including the turquoise pool, opal pool, and the Excelsior geyser. They're all so close, so it's definitely worth taking a moment to stop by and get that photo. Alright, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Grand Prismatic Overlook. In 2017, the park put in this great viewing platform above the Grand Prismatic Spring so you can take a look down. Before, you would just hike up there and hopefully you wouldn't fall off a cliff, but now they have guard railing and it's a nice overlook area. If you really want to get a sense of how big this hot spring is and to get that epic photo looking down, then I would highly recommend you do this. Just keep in mind it is not super easy. It's 1.5 miles with 200 feet of elevation gain, so not a super tough hike, but it is a little bit of a hike to get up there. Also keep in mind that during the summer months it can get super hot, so you want to make sure you are prepared as though you are going on a hike. And definitely wear appropriate shoes for it. You don't want to be going up there in flip-flops for sure. Another thing you're going to want to know if this is high on your list is that the parking lot for this hike is not at the Midway Geyser Basin parking lot. You will want to go to the Fairy Falls parking lot, which is where you will start your hike going up to the overlook. You can also add the Fairy Falls hike as an extension if you like. It's one of the most beautiful waterfalls in the park, but it will add some extra time in this area, so just keeping that in mind if you only have a limited amount of time in Yellowstone. Quick tip, if you are in doubt about which way you should go when you are trying to take on this hike, just make sure to follow the people, because that's typically a good indication that you're headed the right way. Are you struggling on planning your national park trip? Let's face it, between accommodations, figuring out the reservation system, and a lot more, it's just overwhelming planning your national park trip sometimes. This can cost you a lot of time and money just figuring out your itinerary. If you're looking for some help planning your trip, I offer a custom national park itinerary service that walks you through day by day what you need to know before you go. This itinerary will save you a lot of time and money and allows you to get to the park and actually enjoy your trip instead of worrying about all the details. I plan hundreds of national park trips for clients, which has helped them enjoy their whole experience a lot more. So what does one of these custom itineraries include? You can expect reservation information if needed, suggestions on where to stay, what to eat, and what to do, and tips and recommendations for your specific park. You'll love the itinerary I plan for you, or you get your money back. Here are some testimonials from some of my clients. Alex was very responsive to my request for assistance in planning our upcoming trip to Glacier National Park. We were unfamiliar with the park, and it was helpful to get specific recommendations of where to stay, eat, and what to do while we're out there to make the most of our vacation. From Barbara. Alex was more than prompt in responding to my request for an itinerary. Her selections fit perfectly with the criteria I requested. She's been great about following up and making sure that her needs are met. From Samantha. If you're interested in this, I offer a 15-minute consultation call for free where you can tell me about your concerns for your national park trip, and I can give you more information on how I can help you. You can find that out in the description below and book your call there. Alright, here are some of my personal tips I've found helpful while visiting this amazing geothermal feature in Yellowstone. My first is visit in May or September, mostly due to the crowds. Shoulder season is an awesome time to visit Yellowstone because facilities are still open, the park is still ready to go, but you're just not going to experience the number of people that you would during July and August. I will say the boardwalk at the Grand Prismatic Spring is pretty tight, so sometimes it can be hard to get those pictures and feel like you're really there because there are just so many people. So this makes it a little bit easier when navigating that boardwalk, and it just makes the experience altogether more fun. Another thing to keep in mind if you are just planning on staying on the boardwalk and getting pictures, if you are a photographer, you might want a wide angle lens. This could come out a little distorted and you're not able to get the full picture if you just stick to your standard lens. Of course, if you plan on doing the overlook, then you're not going to need it, but it's really when you come down close and you're at that boardwalk. My third tip is to stop and let people pass you if you are planning on taking your time. And you should. Don't feel the need to rush through this amazing feature just because you're getting pressure from other people on the boardwalk. Step aside, let them pass, let them go at their own pace, and you just fully enjoy. Also, I feel like this doesn't need to be said, but it happens every year, so I am going to say it. But please do not step off the boardwalk at any time. These geothermal features are hot, really hot. And it's been known for people to step off and actually burn themselves, having needed to go to the hospital. It's just bad all the way around. The boardwalk is there for a reason, so please stay on it. Alright, here are some common FAQs I get about visiting the Grand Prismatic Spring. Why is the Grand Prismatic Spring so colorful? This is a great question, and I am not a geologist, so I can't properly answer it for you. But from what I know, it is the combination of the heat of the spring and the bacteria that is inside the spring. Fun fact is that bacteria changes its color depending on the temperature of that water in the pool. So another cool thing is it's kind of like a mood ring. If you visit earlier in the year, it's going to be a different color than during the heat of the summer months. The one thing that doesn't change is that blue color in the center. Because it is so hot in there, nothing can survive. So that is that actual color. The orange, other colors on the side, that's the bacteria. I hope that explained it. How hot is the Grand Prismatic Spring? It can reach temperatures of over 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's why I say please stay on the boardwalk, because that would hurt so badly to get burnt by that. Is the Grand Prismatic Spring dangerous? Kind of as I mentioned earlier, obviously if you step off the boardwalk, you're not putting yourself in a very safe situation. But if you are on the boardwalk, obviously you are very safe. There are millions of visitors to Yellowstone per year, so you're gonna be fine if you stay on the boardwalk. Where is the closest entrance to the Grand Prismatic Spring? The closest entrance is the west entrance located by West Yellowstone. It's about a 40-minute drive to the Grand Prismatic Spring. Also keeping in mind traffic during those busy summer months and any wildlife that might be holding up the traffic on the road. How close is the Grand Prismatic Spring to Old Faithful? They are very conveniently close. It's about a 10-minute drive, again, give or take that traffic from Old Faithful to the Grand Prismatic Spring and vice versa. This means if you are planning on only being in Yellowstone for one day, then these two are definitely ones that you should have on your list because they are easy to get to. Can you swim in the Grand Prismatic Spring? Absolutely not. Please do not. Please do not. Just don't. It's so hot. We just talked about that. When is the best time to visit the Grand Prismatic Spring? And this isn't the most straightforward answer that I usually give of visit during shoulder seasons or in the morning or whatever. I personally love those mornings there because of that cool mist, but actually the best time to see the colors of the Grand Prismatic Spring is in the summer in the afternoon. So again, the most prime visited tourist months. This is when you're able to get the best photos because those colors are brighter. So if you are a photographer and you really want them to shine, then yeah, you're gonna pick the busiest time to visit. But of course, it's still magical in those off seasons and in that early morning too. So it really just depends what you want out of it. What facilities are located near the Grand Prismatic Spring? There aren't many facilities located near the Midway Geyser Basin except vault toilets. You're gonna have to drive to the Old Faithful area for restaurants and accommodations and all that. I hope this video has helped you plan your trip to the Grand Prismatic Spring. If you have any questions at all about this or your Yellowstone trip, feel free to let me know in the comments. And before you leave, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button and the bell notification, you'll get more videos on the national parks and tips to help you plan your adventure of a lifetime.